So in this video we're going to be taking a look at taking an exponent, a base with an exponent, and changing it to a numerical expression. So we're going to take 5 to the 4th and we're going to change it to a number basically. Now remember, we have a base with an exponent. Ours is 5 raised to the 4th, and like I said, we want to convert it to a number. So what will that number be? Well, I've already plugged some of these into my calculator so we can kind of look at them. I have a 5 raised to the up caret. That signifies I'm raising 5 to the 4th power, and when I type it in I get 625. So let's go ahead and write them in for 5 to the 3rd power, and I really encourage you to try this in your own calculators. That'll be 125. 5 squared is like 5 times 5, so that'll be 25. And 5 to the 1st power is just 5, and then 5 to the 0 power is simply 1. So if you look at this really close, we know that 5 to the 4th power, that 4th power tells me how many times I multiply 5 together. So 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 will be 625. So if I get 625 by multiplying 5 together 4 times, that means if I divide by 5, I can work backwards. So 625 divided by 5, 125 divided by 5, 25 divided by 5, and then 5 divided by 5 gets me back to 1. Now it's important as we think about this, as we're dividing, and you may not understand this yet, but you will, just remember that you always have to get back to 1. And once you get back to 1, then you want to count how many times you had to divide by a specific base in order to get back to 1. In this case, our base was 5s, and I had to divide it 4 times to get back to 1. Okay? So let's take a look at the negative type. So I'm going to bring out my calculator again. We're going to type 5 raised to the negative 4 power, and you will see something I think kind of interesting happen. I get a decimal point 0016, which doesn't mean much to us. But now I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to push a button that's going to convert it. And it converts over to 1 divided by 625. So the 625 ends up in the denominator. And you can see here I have a negative exponent. On the other side I had a positive exponent, and my 625 was in the numerator. So if a positive exponent makes it in the numerator, the 625, a negative exponent will make it in the denominator. So now that I know what 5 to the 3rd is, 125, if I change that that positive 3 exponent to a negative 3, I know what to write. It'll be 1 over 125. That negative exponent moves the 125 into the denominator. The same way with 5 squared. I have 5 to the negative 2 will move the 25 into the denominator. In the same way with 5 to the negative 1, the 5 will be moved into the denominator. And then again, we still have 5 to the 0 power equals 1. Now just like before, we can divide the denominators by 5, and we can count backwards to see how many times we divide by 5 to get back to 1. Now the first case I did the numerator, in the second case I do the denominator. In both cases they were divided 4 times.